Kelly, that if you're not speaking, to go ahead and put yourself on mute so we don't get any background noise.
Let me have Tony start as chairman. Give me just 10 seconds here. Tony, are you good? Yes, sir. Okay, we're up, Chairman. All yours, sir.
Well, I had it on, and Lacey, thanks for welcoming everybody. I apologize for the lateness. Does that sound a little better? I'm off my speakerphone, hopefully.
Yes, that's better.
Sounds good.
Okay, so welcome again. Thanks for the short notice, as Lacey said. If we can just kind of get right to it. Our effort was started because we've had some case increases, not big hospital increases, but we've had some stuff come up which has elevated Dr. Menz to make a presentation to us Tuesday on the 3 items that are listed on the panel discussion. Our suggestion on Tuesday morning was to reconvene a meeting like this to review these things so we could get real-time input from real users. You will notice the panel that is available. Everybody but Janetta Everett. Janetta, I've invited you as the chamber chairperson, but everybody else is actual revenue generators, impact on the real economy of our city and our region. I didn't mean to insult anybody by leaving out people like Jeff Thor or Susie Santo. They are huge industry experts, but I thought it was better for you as a commission or our commissioners to hear it directly from you on your real life input and impact of what you can live with, what you can't live with, and what you would maybe recommend. So since then, on Tuesday night, the governor issued her order. It's been, but it was a verbal order. We didn't get a copy of the written order until after 9 o'clock this morning. You all have a copy of that. I don't know if you've been able to look through it. It does look primarily related to masking and masks as a mandate. And so with that, we have, of course, Lacey and I can be active participants. I think the rest of the commissioners are watching and listening. So I don't think so. Anybody, Lacey, you have anything to add, or Tom, before we get started?
No, the only thing that I would add is if I could direct everybody's attention to the panel discussion to the on your right, so that the little chat function. I posted all of the members who are on the panel, with the exception of Tim Buchanan. I don't believe that he's joined us, and the discussion topic. So if you don't have the agenda handy, it's over to the right.
Okay, thank you. So can we do a roll call? I'm going to assume the commissioners are here, and Tom and Mike and our staff is online. Adrian, are you online? Are you here? Okay, Adrian Byrne.
Chairman, she is on.
Yes.
And also, I've just kind of done a roll. I think I had everybody present that we had invited. I don't know if Tim Buchanan's on yet, Michelle Stein, or Maggie Topping, but everybody else is here.
Maggie Topping's here.
Maggie's here, all right. So that just leaves us Tim Buchanan and Michelle Stein, chairman. Everybody else is here.
Okay. Well, with that said, now I do know that our 3 items to discuss, the third item, masks, was part of Dr. Menz's recommendation, and it obviously then came out a few hours later with Governor Kelly's executive order. So some of these items may not be germane to your business. That's okay. You don't have to respond to it. I was going to, the order that we had was, I knew that Tim Buchanan at Legend Senior Living was kind of in a time crunch.
Chairman, excuse the interruption. He has joined us, so
Oh.
he is on the phone.
Hi, Tim. How are you? Tim, you're muted, maybe.
I think maybe he's calling user 7. Tim, are you there?
Okay.
He has sent me a message, so maybe he's having a little bit of audio issues.
Okay. Well, because everybody is a what I would call a revenue and maker and a impact on the economy. Everybody but Janetta Everett is. I haven't talked to Janetta ahead of time, but Janetta, because you're kind of a representative of the Chamber of Commerce, if you want to have any opening comments, and then we'll go kind of down the list in order of the panel members. So, Janetta, I'd like to invite you to express anything that you'd like to say.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, now we can't.
Now we cannot, Janetta.
All right. Let me see. Can I? Okay.
Okay.
Any?
No.
Okay. All right. I'll call back.
Okay. All right. Well, I apologize for some of the challenges we've had with setting this up. But all right, let's go. Tim, are you available to speak? Tim Buchanan.
Can you hear me?
Oh, we can now, Tim. Thank you.
Yes, there you are.
Good.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I apologize for the lack of internet. It worked about an hour ago, and I got no access from any source here. Apologize.
Tim, if you don't mind, can you share a little bit of your resume and how you nationwide and some of your? I know you're on a federal commission with Health and Human Services, so if you can give everybody a 30-second resume of such, that would be helpful. And then if you can address the items below.
Well, good. I'm the CEO of Legend Senior Living. We operate primarily assisted living residences in 6 states across the country. We have 41 locations and just under 3,000 residents. And I'm on the board of Argentum, the National Trade Association for Assisted Living. So, I'm the immediate past chairman. So up until May, I was sort of managing the crisis with the association and conversations with the HHS secretary, the CDC, and several members of Congress and the White House Commission. And so I've been tracking the outbreak from our industry standpoint since March. And our association's doing a lot related to the outbreak for senior adults. And as an advocate for senior adults, I would just I'll go out on a limb here and I'll celebrate the order for masks. I think masks are a very demonstrated way to reduce spread. There are studies in Germany and where it can reduce the spread by 40%. The Florida Medical Association has done studies on this. So I think it's a wonderful way to try and, if we could reduce the spread in our country by a third by just everybody wearing a mask, it seems like a small sacrifice to pay for the benefit of public health during this crisis. As an advocate for seniors and for our caregivers, we've seen a spike just in the last 3 weeks in Texas among employees that have tested and had to stay home and can't work because they've come in contact with someone with COVID, and so they have to stay home for 2 weeks. And we've had a relatively low rate of infection in our company, less than 1% among our residents. But and our associates have fared equally well until just recently as the economies began to open up without any masks. And so we've seen the direct impact from the increased rate of spread. So I'm a big supporter of masks. One of the shocking things for me in the last couple of weeks has been going to drive-through restaurants and looking in some of the restaurants and recognizing that in many of these establishments, the employees are not even wearing masks. And the droplets that people breathe out, as most of you have when you do hours on a hard surface. And so food preparation, not wearing masks is honestly frightening to me. We're starting to see visitors in some states come into assisted living now. And so those family members who want to come and see their loved ones have to go to the grocery store, and they have to go get gas, and have to interact with the public. And if the rest of the public isn't being respectful and responsible, they can impact a large population that eventually works its way back to employees at long-term care, employees at hospitals, employees that are a critical part of our healthcare infrastructure in the country. So I think limiting the size of groups in large gatherings, particularly traveling from out of state, and increasing that, I do not think that the crisis is over. In many parts of the country, numbers are spiking as they did in March and April. And so I think it's a time for caution. And the public has demonstrated that a small opening in the door without any control, any good, strong enforcement in place is sort of out of control. And so I think there does need to be some discipline applied, and I think government is the source for that. Some reasonableness. I'm certainly not an advocate for shutting the economy down, but it can be opened with some measured protocols in place, and be respectful of the people that are the most vulnerable. A large part of our population are over 65. Many young people today are contracting the virus. Anybody that's undergoing chemo or any infusion therapy or taking anything that's causing their immune system to be compromised can be killed. They come in contact with someone that's asymptomatic, that's spreading the they go because they're so. I do think these limits are helpful. I do think businesses taking their responsibility to enforce within their establishment. If they want to be open, force that. We have been enforcing stringent protocol in our business 24 hours a day. So I know it's possible, and I know people rules when put out for them. So I'm in favor of these 3 points at some level of reasonableness so the businesses can continue to operate. But if businesses don't want to cooperate and believe that they just want to pack people in, I think that's tremendously disrespectful to the cause of public health, and it's tremendously disrespectful to your fellow citizens. So I would just ask everybody to work together and try and promote the concept of public health.
Okay, Tim.
Thank you,
Great.
Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on today. I really appreciate it.
Tim, you're welcome to stay around, or if you need to leave.
Yeah, no, I can be around for a bit more. I'm curious
Okay.
of the rest of the discussions.
Okay. Has Michelle Stein from Marriott joined us yet?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hi, mate. Yes, I
Oh,
think we
good.
can.
I had called in earlier, and I didn't, for some reason. I apologize. I do not have a webcam, and so I called in earlier, and I wasn't able to connect to the audio. So I could hear you guys. You couldn't hear me.
Okay. And I'm on remote on my phone as well. Can you, Lacey, can you confirm that the panel, everybody can hear her? Can hear Michelle?
Yes, you're good to go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent.
Michelle, again, if you heard, 30 seconds of who you are and what you're about a little bit, and then if you can share your comments. Appreciate
Sure.
it.
First of all, I do respect the governor's order, and actually, Marriott has been so great. We had to close the hotel for almost 3 months, so I ran the hotel, a closed hotel with no host. And sadly, we had to lay off 170 of the most wonderful, beautiful people I will ever have the honor of knowing and the honor of working with, and so. But Marriott has been really great about their communications and making sure that all the guidelines have been laid out in detail for us. In fact, each month I have to go through a commitment to clean certification and let them know that we're doing everything that they have told us to do. So all of our hosts are wearing masks. We clean everything every 30 minutes. We've got our social distancing signs around, including in the banquet area, which there haven't been any banquets. Maybe there was one small meeting with 15 people last week. So we also have hand sanitizer stations in all high traffic areas. And also we are providing surface disinfectant wipes in each guest room. And of course we've got our signage throughout the hotel to promote physical distancing, and at the elevators and throughout the conference areas and the front part of the hotel, the lobby, and the restaurant. We have discontinued our buffet in the restaurant, and all of our hosts in the restaurant and throughout the hotel, housekeeping hosts, back of house hosts, engineering hosts, of course, front of house hosts, everyone, every single person, myself included, are required to wear masks, and we adhere to that standard very strictly. So that's what we're doing on the hotel front. It is extremely challenging right now. You can imagine hotels, we took a huge hit. We were supposed to be extremely busy and have a wonderful, wonderful first, second, and third quarter. And now we sat empty, and I ran the hotel by myself. So we just reopened late May, and we are so grateful to that, and we are following each and every standard as strictly as possible. And thankfully, we have Marriott's wonderful guidance to guide us through each and every step of the process of keeping our guests and our hosts safe.
And Michelle, you now that you've reopened, you mentioned that you maybe had a fairly decent weekend last weekend, or you want to elaborate on that?
Last weekend, we've been running since we reopened about. It's been very slow, but we've done a little bit better than we thought. So we've been running about 15 to 20%. And last weekend, we were actually at 65% on Friday and 68% on Saturday, which was great. We had the MAYB basketball from around the state, and I think maybe around the region. And everything went very well. The guests were happy. What we do when our guests check out of each room, we wait 24 hours before we allow our housekeeping host to go in and service that guest room. Also, we are only servicing guest rooms based on requests from our guests. So, but that went really well last week, went off without a hitch, and we were able to keep all of our guests, all of our hosts, and everybody safe. So now our guests, a lot of them, some of them are wearing masks, probably 50-50. Some of them are wearing masks, even though we're always wearing masks. Some of them are not wearing masks. So we wear our mask whether our guests are wearing them or not. But we do not feel it's our place to police our guests. So we encourage it, and of course our signage throughout the hotel encourages it. But we're not the mask police to our guests. We don't want to offend our guests. So if we see guests that don't have one, we have them available at the front desk if they wish to have one. We also have gloves and hand sanitizer and anything they would need, but a lot of guests are choosing not to. So that's their choice. It's, we can only encourage by trying to lead by example.
Okay. Michelle, thanks. I think for the way we're doing this, if I know there may be some panelists and myself and Lacey may have a few questions, but if I think let's let everybody get through their story, and then we can sum up with some direct questions, either individuals or some roundtable comments. So if that's okay with everybody, we will. And did you have anything else to add, Michelle?
No, thank you. But thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks for sharing your stuff.
My pleasure.
Tom, do you have the next one was up with Sheila Lowry from Kroger, Dillon's Corporate Affairs. She's been a good help for us all during this stuff with information. She was not able to join us.
Correct,
Tom,
correct,
do you
Chairman.
or Lacey, do you have her message? She sent a message to us that she wanted to share with the panel. Can you read that for us?
Vice Chair, if
Or-
you don't have it, I can retrieve it. Chairman, if you'd like, I'll retrieve it, and let's go on to the next speaker, and then I'll have it back.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so next up, under the health club world, we have Jacob Wayman. Jacob, you're on.
Yeah, can you guys hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Perfect. So, yeah, my wife and I are the owners of Orangetheory Fitness here in Wichita. We have locations on the east side of Wichita and the northwest side of Wichita. During this time, we actually just purchased these studios back in January, so it was kind of a whirlwind over the past few months for us. We actually ended up closing our studios for 66 days during the pandemic. And when we reopened, we, much like with Michelle, with Orangetheory, our corporate, our franchisor, they provided a ton of guidance for us on how to reopen properly. They sourced out supplies for us, from face masks to gym wipes to disinfectants, everything that we could use for us to reopen. And so when we reopened, we only had about 70% of our members returned. So that was a 30% hit to our revenue right off the top. Many people decided not to return due to with the numbers that were increasing. Also, a lot of them were financial due to being laid off or furloughed. And then most recently, with the cases starting to increase over the past couple of weeks, we've had several more members freezing their memberships during this time too. And so it's been a pretty big impact to us financially, just being new business owners on this. But what we're doing to keep our members and our staff safe is all staff are in face masks during their entire shift, and they all get temperature checked before they walk into our studios. And also they are disinfecting their hands right before they walk into the studios. And then with our members, what we're doing is we are group fitness, so we have a set schedule for our classes every day. And so all members, before they enter the studio, they can't enter the studio no more than 5 minutes before the class starts. We temperature check and symptom check all members as they walk in. They disinfect their hands before they step into the studio, and then they go straight to their equipment and are there in their at the equipment to get started for the class. And then once the class is going, we have an ample amount of gym wipes or disinfectant wipes that we hand out to all of our members throughout class. So they rotate throughout our class. And so every time they rotate to a new station, they get a wipe to wipe down the station they were just on and the station that they're going to. So they're kind of getting doubly wiped or disinfectant during the process. And then between all classes, we actually take 30 minutes between classes and disinfect the entire studio. We've brought on more staff during this time to help with that process. And then once a week, we actually bring an electrostatic disinfectant sprayer to spray down the entire studio. And we use citywide maintenance for that service. And the chemical that they use has a 7-day kill time for high touch surfaces, and then a 21-day kill time for low touch surfaces. And so, we are hitting everything we can to keep our studios safe for our members and our staff, so they feel comfortable when they're there, because when they're there for the hour with us, we want them to feel as safe as possible to get a great workout. Due to the recent announcement by the governor, beginning tomorrow, we are actually going to require our members to wear a mask into the studio, so when they go through the check-in process, but then once they get to their station, they can remove their mask to work out, because we are actually having 6 feet of distance between all of our machines. So during the entire workout, they're able to stay 6 feet apart from other members in the class. By doing that, we had to lower our number of people that are in classes, so we had to add classes to our schedule, so we had some extra costs to that. So, we've incurred quite a bit of extra cost in terms of cleaning and staffing during this time, with also that hit in revenue. So, but we want to do whatever we can to, get us back to full operations, get our schools back open for our kids, because a lot of our members are moms in the community, and I know they wanted their kids back in school just as much as we do, and so we are doing our part in trying to really help keep a clean studio and keep our members feeling safe while they're there.
Okay. I think that's a big question that comes up that you kind of touched on, Jacob, and maybe it'll come up with the other panelists in youth sports or whatever. Is are we requiring athletes and athletic endeavors to try to wear a mask during their workouts or their games or whatever? So, in your case.
Yeah, well, and if you read her executive order on item 2, where's it at? It actually talks about it in where it says with athletics, if you're able, it says item G on point number 3, it says athletes who are engaged in organized sports activity that allows athletes to maintain a 6-foot distance from others with only infrequent or incidental moments of closer proximity. So they are not required to wear a mask if you're able to keep that 6-foot distance.
Right. Okay. All right.
Chairman, I have the Dillon statement if you want me to read it.
Okay. Again, thanks, Jacob, for joining us. Appreciate it. And we'll go back up a spot to what Sheila Lowry from Kroger/Dillon's wanted to share. And it's not a long memo, but it is something that's a couple paragraphs that is worth hearing, I believe. Okay. Tom,
I might just mention, we've worked with Sheila from the very beginning of COVID. Kroger's been a great partner to the county, as has of a number of our retail distributors, our food distributors. So she speaks with some authority here. She is the corporate affairs manager for Kroger. Her note says, I will not be available to join the call, but wanted to share a perspective from Dillon's. To help keep our associates and customers safe, we require all associates wear a facial covering, and we are providing masks to every associate on every shift. We also request, and she has that word underlined, we also request all customers to wear a mask while shopping in our stores, or alternatively use our e-commerce services like pickup and delivery. This is really no different than our long-standing practice to encourage customers to wear masks while shopping with us. In locations where masks are mandated, we support the local ordinance and are making every reasonable effort to encourage compliance. We also enforce the ordinance through door signage and in-store radio, as well as the ongoing execution of additional protective measures like floor decals and protective partitions at every check lane to further promote physical distancing. We will continue to monitor counties across Kansas to understand how local officials plan to adopt the mandates as outlined by Governor Kelly, and we will uphold local guidance. So that's her statement, sir.
Okay. Well, she's not on, but obviously thanks for what she's been doing, and I think Dillon's has been Kroger's been a little bit of a leader from the start of this. They're under a lot of pressure when everybody was still shopping. Remember the days when there was a toilet paper shortage and all that? But anyway. Okay. With that, Stephanie Satrape. I forgot, Stephanie, how to say your last name.
Satrapi.
That's right. Anyway,
That's
Stephanie was on one of her original calls. She's a GM at Town East. I've got to meet her recently. She kind of helps. She's been helpful with Simon Properties that has properties all over. But Stephanie, thanks for joining us, and why don't you summarize again what the past is and where your retail people sit today?
Yeah, absolutely. So since we reopened on May 4th, we've taken extreme efforts to keep our building clean, to provide sanitizer to our shoppers, and encourage social distancing throughout the center. Wearing face coverings is the first line item on our Healthy Shopper protocols that are posted throughout the center and at every entrance. Our protocols also communicate that masks are available complimentary at the mall office. We do even have some specific retailers that are requiring masks in their space. And then as a reaction to Governor Kelly's order, we plan to add an additional layer to our protocols in which our roaming security officers will actually approach a guest if they see someone without a mask and just make them aware of our protocols and also offer them a mask on the spot.
Okay. Could you comment on anything to do with, do you have any comments yet about what your restaurants and your food service providers would be about regarding a 50% occupancy world?
Yeah, I think it's our food court. Our food court is already at probably less than 50% occupancy, which would be basically the restaurant, so to speak, for our food court tenants. So we wouldn't, I mean, we've already, like I said, been operating under that circumstance. We have more than half of our tables in storage right now. And then our individual restaurants, again, if that's the governor's order, I think a lot of them are probably most are spacing their customers out at least 6 feet anyway. And so the few that I've talked to haven't seemed concerned about implementing a 50% reduction in occupancy.
Okay. Well, we have a couple of restaurant people to talk anyway as well. That'd be more specific. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear what, and we know
Yeah,
in effect
I
if
spoke
you have
to,
a food court. Yeah.
Yeah, I spoke to, tried to get a couple from each category before the call today. And like I said, nobody seemed concerned with their abilities to enforce 50% occupancy within a restaurant.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks again for all of you for joining at this last minute request. Okay, next we'll go to the bar and restaurant world with John Arnold. John, are you on the call?
I am.
Hey, welcome. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
were on our previous call a couple months ago. Now you've experienced, like the others, what's the last 2 months brought to you, and if you could weigh in, we appreciate it, or give you a little provide some background to everybody as well.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all the commissioners for allowing me to be here today. I'm John Arnold. I'm with A&M Restaurant Group. We have Dino's Grill and Tap Works, Greystone Steak and Seafood, Oak and Pie, and Spearman Field Bar and Grill. Over the last couple of months since we talked, we're down probably 30% overall. We did experience some gains, in the first few weeks that the ban was lifted, but it's kind of tightened down now. For full service restaurants, I'm trying to look at this not in a vacuum, but having an economic impact, health impact, and mental health impact. All of our restaurants right now, all of our employees are wearing masks, and we believe that wearing a mask, if you are infected, it stops the spread by 95%. At least that's what we have learned. We go through a health check every day at a pre-shift team meeting with all of our employees, and go through the taking the temperature and going through the questionnaire. We have hand sanitizers at the doors and in high traffic areas. And then we're installing signs that describes our level of commitment to our guests by all of our employees wearing the masks and washing our hands frequently. We have not policed our guests on using masks, and going forward, I don't think that we will. There doesn't seem to be any enforcement out there by the higher ups, but just the fact that the mask issue is going around at 12 o'clock midnight on Friday, I think we'll probably go down another 30% in sales. So the 50% occupancy, I just think that everybody's heightened awareness is it's going to drop people getting out, and just heightens people's awareness. As far as economically, being down, 30 to 50%, they're really not, we're not in a position to obligate our financial responsibilities. So it's touchy going forward, but we want to do whatever we can to make our guests feel happy and make them feel safe whenever they're in our restaurants. We feel like, the masks are a good thing for our guests and our employees, and we encourage it, but we're not policing them at this point. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, John. Thank you for sharing. On top of that, we have Scott Redler, Mr. Freddy's. Scott, you were on our previous call as well, and you've been of a lot of help previously. So are you on and available? Scott?
There we go. How good now? There we go.
You're muted.
I'm always a lot more eloquent when I'm muted. I want you to know that. So that's, we're kind of one of the interesting ones. We have, we're the franchisor, so we're the ones when Jacob was talking about, things that were sent to his restaurants. We're the one that is sending them to the almost 400 restaurants nationwide at costs that we feel are worth it. And the messages we give we're trying to be very clear. We have a new one that we're starting, or we should be starting soon. I'll read it quickly. And this is something we would be posting on our doors, which is guidance regarding COVID-19 varies in each community throughout the country. Freddy's team members will always meet or exceed these recommendations. We kindly ask our guests, to the extent that they are able and not otherwise exempt, adhere to the regulations of the community while in our restaurants. The mask thing component, we believe in them, we wear them. We're above and beyond. We have sneeze shields when they're not needed. We have masks when they're not required. We have separation in every restaurant in the country, even when not mandated, because we feel our goal is to continue to improve on the trust our guests put in us. And there are costs associated with this. We have costs when we put barriers between booths. And we like the pragmatic approach that the county has taken. As an example, the dividers between booths, we put a height of, I think, 54 inches or something like that. And Illinois put a height of 6 feet. I don't know anybody who stands up in a booth. It's kind of ridiculous. And so we appreciate that kind of approach. We recently took our South Wichita Freddy's, actually yesterday, got, as we test things, our new permanent dividers between the booths, which are clear and have panels. And so if you have a chance, go down to South Meridian and take a look at that, Freddy's. We're not a big, we think sometimes with the mask issues and requirement, in a state like Kansas, pulling all politics out of it, our goal is to get more people to wear masks. We agree with that. When you mandate, you get a lot of people that want to jump up on a soapbox and go for or against that ruling, right? And so for that reason, we think that you would get more success being in a mode of strongly recommend masks versus mandate. None of us want to be the police, the mask police, and we think that's critical. I have a story from yesterday on someone who actually got into a discussion, two people in at a location in Missouri over a mask, and an employee, not of our business, of another one, made a comment to the guest, and they ended up having to call the police. The guest left before the police got there. That's not what we're looking for. We're trying to get as many people as we can to wear masks and be safe, and strongly suggesting, I think, accomplishes the same thing as, or damn close, as mandating without the controversial issues. Just something to think about. The other comment I have is on occupancy. The recommendation we made before was 50% of occupancy plus staff. And that's very important, not for a Freddy's, but for a lot of other restaurants, depending on the size of the restaurant. The impact of 50% of occupancy in our description was a small little diner that seats 8 people, and you start doing the math on it, and they can't have any cooks. So we think that's a fair way to do it, and works well. One other part of my background, I'm heavily involved in the Kansas Restaurant and Hospitality Association with John, and have been for a lot of years, and also a board member of the National Restaurant Association. So a lot of information that I'm able to get comes through our national organization. And open for any questions anybody might have.
Okay. Well, thank you. And Scott, or go ahead. Let me say something.
Yeah, Commissioner Munster, this is Tim Buchanan again.
Hi, Tim.
Great conversation. I really enjoyed hearing from everyone. We have been the police at our place of business since the middle of March, and everybody that steps foot in one of our establishments has to have their temperature taken. We ask them a series of 12 questions. We have healthcare workers sign affidavits on where they've been so we can contact trace. We're just now allowing family member visits in some of our communities as the states allow. They have to do the same thing. We have to we're taking their temperature because we're looking for fever. We're trying to keep the virus out of our communities. And so we do all of those protocols with everybody that comes in the front door. And we've had to secure the rest of our perimeter so that people do come through that screening entrance. But we are enforcing masks because of who we serve, and it's a requirement in every state, which is a good thing. But the customers I have found the customers to be very, very respectful, and they fully understand, they fully appreciate, they want their parents to be cared for well, and they want to know that these protocols and safety measures are in place for their safety and for that of their parents. So I have found customers really respectful of our enforcement, of reminding them, to wear a mask, and in very rare situations that we had to be stringent about it or get into a conversation about it. But I think businesses have been in the business of enforcing government regulations for safety wear for a couple of generations now. People in restaurants in the kitchens have to wear hairnets. It's not optional, enforced by the establishment. People that work in a factory have to wear goggles. You can't raise your hand and say, I'm a free American, I don't have to wear a goggle. If you don't want to wear a goggle, Spirit will ask you to leave the building. And so I think part of our culture is conditioned for that, but the political statement I agree with. It's been too politicized and too much of a political statement and not enough conversation about the good of the public health. And that there are other examples of government intervening in the interest of public safety and public health and requiring people to go into certain environments and go out in public, abide by certain conditions and rules. But at the end of it, having gone all the way through that cycle, I'll just remind, I think customers very much appreciate that for what senior housing has done for the customers and for the families. So I think the other side of it can be very positive.
Okay. Thanks, Tim, for your comments. Did you get those in because you got to get off the call real quick?
No, I'm hanging around for you.
Okay. All right. So next, let's go to Mr. Eric Fisher, Hair Salon. So Eric, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Good to be here. Everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, I, like all of you, I think we've been, very circumspect about this. We started wearing masks, and we insist that our clients wear masks. It's a non-negotiable. You don't have a mask, we've got them for you, but we don't let you in. So basically, we do the same sanitation procedures that you're all talking about in between every client. We sign forms, we take temperatures. We even have buttons that say, I had my temperature taken, that the staff wears. So we've I think, been very cautious about all this. We've taken it very seriously. We have, probably 10 to 14,000 services we do monthly. Business has been unbelievable since we came back. We double shifted so we could keep the social distancing up. Everybody wears masks, as I said, and it's been great since we got back. Probably 85% of all our reviews are thanking us for our safety procedures. I think people very much appreciate what we're doing. We do have a few outcasts that this is the first and only time I'm going to wear a mask. People do tell us that, and I'm great. I'm happy for you. I really don't care, but the safety of my people and the safety of my clients is, my number one objective. And so I think we've done our due diligence on everything. We even have sanitizing door handles. So we've done everything, and my staff's on board. We communicate regularly about, our protocols to making sure that everything is in order. And I think, you can't repudiate the evidence that masks are so important. So, we're doing it. I mean, I've got a pregnant daughter. I've got a wife who's, her immune system's slightly compromised. So even my son, he's a KU senior. He was incredibly cautious for 2 months. He went up to Lawrence. As soon as he came back, guess what? I had him tested twice because I don't want to take a chance. And I think for the most part, people are happy that we are open. People love their hairdresser. The hairdressers love to be back to work. It's dignifying. It's good. Most of my people enjoy it. We furloughed probably 120 people initially. We took an economic hit like everybody else did. But, the PPP mitigated some of that financial burden that we had. And, we're going to move forward. And you know what? I think if we need to social distance again and double shift 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., we'll do it 6 days a week and working Sundays. We'll do whatever it takes. But I just want to stay in business. And I don't want a lawsuit because, somebody feels like we don't have a safe environment. And in my industry, the lawsuits, I won't say they're ubiquitous, but they are happening. And it does frighten me. So we are doing everything we can possibly do to be as cautious in the future as possible. And all my team is pretty much on board with everything. And the clients, again, are very appreciative of our safety standards. And I don't think they'd come in if they didn't. But we probably lost a few people due to they, are categorical about not wearing masks. And to them, I say, I'm sorry. Go find another salon. And I did. I took all the kids out to a restaurant the other night. I won't mention which one. Nobody had a mask on. The waiter comes over, wants to hug me. Good to see you. I go, listen, that's off limits. I feel uncomfortable about that. If I'm doing my due diligence, I expect everybody else to. And so I'm very, very cautious about everything. But I can tell you that from an economical point of view, it's great to be back to work, and people love it. So. Anyway, thanks for my words. I do have a meeting at 2:00 with an out-of-town guest, so I might have to leave this a little early. So I apologize for that, but thanks for having me, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely, Eric. Thanks. If you have to leave here in a few minutes, did you have any questions of the previous panel or future panel that you wanted to ask real quick?
Not really. I mean, this sounds like a great group.
Okay.
I know that bars, I read all the I look at the anecdotal stuff. I look at the research, what's happening. You just cannot repudiate the facts that science drives this. And I think it's hard for me to do all that we're doing and wearing those masks and having to we didn't even blow dry for a while, but wearing those masks and blow drying takes a hit on you because we are very busy. And it's hard, and it sucks the energy right out of you. And then you go out to a restaurant or to some activity, and nobody's wearing masks. Wait staff's not wearing masks. I find that very frustrating that there's not that unilateral kind of thinking amongst businesses. So I would love to be able to coalesce with all of you guys, and we have one set of standards, and everybody sticks with it, and and everybody's better for it. So that's my point of view.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Eric, for joining us. Okay, we will move. So you can depart whenever you think you need to, but we'll keep moving on.
Thank you so
So
much.
now we go to the next one is the sports, youth sports, indoor, outdoor sports category, and Timber Lee is on the phone or on the meeting. Timber?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you guys for holding this forum. I really appreciate and letting us speak into it. I'm the owner-operator of Wichita Sports Forum, operator of Stryker Sports Complex. Been a part of a group that's developed 30-plus trampoline parks around the country. So between that and having 4 kids in this community and grown and lived in this community my whole life, have a lot to do with sports around here, and so there's very few things that I don't at least touch on a daily, weekly basis around here involving that. This time period has been very challenging for us. We're down 60+% since we opened. As several other panelists have stated, this has been a very tough time, very challenging for us. We have, during that time, we closed for 2+ months. We spent 6 figures on helping eliminate the spread of the virus in our facility by mitigating several different things. We had to cancel spring and tournaments and leagues over at Stryker. We've laid off over 100 people. Since then, we've hired extra staff back, even though we're down considerably. In order to gain some of that business back, we hired multiple staff back, installed hand sanitizers, plexiglass. All of our employees answer 8 to 10 questions pre-shift, every shift. I was glad to hear MAYB last weekend. That I know it was kind of falsely spread around, but that was spread out over 12 facilities and over 3 different counties. And I know I can speak for us here that all of our staff wore masks during that event. We electrostatically disinfected the facility before and after. And our staff consistently throughout the weekend were wiping everything down and doing everything that we could to do that. I know it was a benefit financially for businesses around the city that was brought in, and I think it was a success. Speaking to that, I know Dr. Mins mentioned that not allowing participants from any other state for youth sports, and I would strongly disagree with that statement. One thing that we have already implemented prior to his statement was that we don't allow, and proof in point was last weekend when we didn't allow teams from Arkansas or other states that were considered quote unquote hot spots by KDHE. We asked them not to come to the tournament, and they were given refunds and they did not attend. And so I think that his stating that all states should not come to Kansas, I think is a stretch. But I do think that some mitigation, meaning that we keep an eye on the current states that are considered hot spots, and we address those as that is a fluid situation. I think I respect all the panelists from the varying different backgrounds and the varying different industries, but I do caution that we should not have a one-size-fits-all approach to this. Even on this call, I'm not going through everybody's background, but there's been a variety of different answers, but also just as many as the varyings of answers is also the vary of the industry that they come from and protecting of certain individuals, whether it be of age or anything else. And so I respect them for the decisions they made, but I also, as several have stated, we don't intend to be the police over our guests. We can highly recommend them that they wear masks. But obviously, any athlete should not be required to wear a mask. Coaches, they're sometimes they get more exercise than the athletes on the field at some point, and so I don't think they should be required as well. But I mean, recommended, and if they want to, absolutely they should. I'm trying to hit I think I already mentioned the Dr. Mins comments. I think, the way that her order is written, I appreciate that you're pivoting and meeting at 4 o'clock today, because the way her order reads is that, it's very vague in some aspects. Athletics and recreational activity in general, I don't believe any athlete or coach or referee or participant in any strenuous or recreational activity, whether it be indoors or outdoors, should be required to put on a mask. Very few, if any, sports or recreational activities put an athlete in contact, meaning within 6 feet, continuously for any period of time. Obviously, there's incidental and there's infrequent, but it's not continuous. You know, I obviously agree that the coaches and the players should be asked, you know, prior exposure questions or symptomatic questions. That should be done by all the coaches and obviously by employers. We do that as well. I think those are responsible questions to ask. You know, I also want to take into account, you know, this topic, and this seems to be very single focused, but I also don't want to leave out the question and the thought about the emotional and physical health of our youth. I've talked to sports directors around the city, around the country, and our youth are being harmed in multiple ways. Obviously, yes, COVID is a thing and is something that we have to address, but that let's not leave out some of the other things that are being affected by this. And so while we need to take precautions, we also need to take into account the physical and emotional health of our youth, which comes with lack of activity and having to stay home. With that, if you'll oblige me, I do have an email that was sent to one of my GMs from Bill Fathwick, who is the executive director of the Kansas State High School Activity Association, about a rumor that has gone around. And I'll just read directly from it so that I don't take anything out of context. He says, there is no truth to the rumor that a meeting to cancel fall sports is scheduled for mid-July. Regrettably, someone irresponsibly used social media to post inaccurate information in this regard and raise the angst of many. At this time, we are working hard to prepare and provide best information to our member schools in a timely manner so they may be ready to start fall sports practices on August 17th, congruent to the time students return to school for classroom learning. It will always be a choice of the school to offer an activity and the choice of the parents or student to participate in what is offered. It is our hope the interscholastic activity will continue to have a positive impact on our students and the Cation member schools they attend. As of July 1st, we are working hard to make that a reality. And that's from Bill, end quote. And so I just, again, I appreciate all that you guys have done, all that you're doing currently, and I obviously will continue to do in the future. I'll be open for any questions, and I'll stay on as well.
All right. Timber, thanks again for joining us. I think your perspective is nice for everybody to hear. So next we'll go to Aaron Bastian, Fidelity Bank. Aaron?
Good afternoon. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'm Aaron Bastian, President and CEO of Fidelity Bank. We are a fourth-generation family-owned community bank based in Wichita, right around 400 employees in Wichita and 500 overall, count our other markets. This last 90 days, as I'm sure for all of you, seems like about 6 years to me. Once we realized the situation with this pandemic, we closed branch lobbies beginning at the end of March, and at the 1st of June began to reopen our branch lobbies in stages. We are at this point have 15 of our 21 branch lobbies open. I would tell you from my perspective, the number one most important thing to me in this reopening has been the health of our employees and making sure that I do everything I can to keep everybody that works at Fidelity safe so that we can then keep our customers safe and do our part to not spread this virus. To that end, deep cleaning and sanitizing all of our facilities happens routinely, a couple times a week, headquarters as well as our branch offices. Face masks have been given out to all of our employees. Plastic shield barriers that sit on our teller areas that keep our employees a little bit separate from our customers when they come to the building. And we've handed out hand sanitizer and hand sanitizing wipes and all that. That has been how we've been operating since the beginning of June. I would tell you the focus for us was ratchet up a notch last week when we had a case in our headquarters building, one of the non-customer contact areas. And that resulted in the quarantine of right around 40 people that had some form of interaction with the folks that were exhibiting symptoms and had a positive case. So now we have required mask wearing throughout our headquarters, as well as for our employees in our branch network. As the governor came out with her order earlier this week, yesterday we began handing out masks and asking our customers to wear masks when they come in any of our branches. In my mind, this is really a public health issue. Employee safety is number one for me, but after that, doing our part with public health and the health of our customers is really important. No different than if I said, you got to wear a shirt or shoes to come in and do business with us. Also I see this as a business continuity issue. Having one positive case take 10% of my employees and sideline them in a quarantine situation is a real problem. And we work through it and we'll be fine. But it's an issue that if we aren't as careful as possible, will really cause some detrimental issues to businesses, not just the bank, but other businesses out in the community. But lastly, and this is kind of my area, so I'm going to spend a little more time on this. I think this is an economic issue. I think it's critically important that we keep the economy open. We cannot afford, on many levels, another full-on shutdown of the economy that we experienced in these last 90 days. I think that the governor's order is a pretty good path forward for allowing the economy to remain open, at least in large part, but a path to reducing the increase that we've seen in cases. For that reason, I fully support the wearing of masks. I think it's in this environment, I would normally feel this way, but in this environment, I think it's the right thing to do to mandate it. That's just my personal belief, because I think that pressure that will call us all to our best selves in making sure that we avoid passing around this virus is the right thing to do.
Okay. Aaron, thanks, and appreciate what you're doing in the community as well. So, and what Fidelity Bank does. So, thank you. Okay, next we will go to the aircraft industry. For those of you who don't know, we have an industry in Wichita area that's aviation. It's a pretty good industry for our community. So with that, Maggie Topping is agreed to, she was with Textron, and Maggie, thanks for taking time out of the day to join us and share as a major employer in our community. Thank you incredibly much.
Thanks, Pete. And thank you guys for the good governance provided by the citizens, for the citizens of Sedgwick County. So I think, like several of you, we have over the course of several months been furloughing employees, announced rounds of layoffs. And with that, we've restricted travel, we have cleaning protocol, disinfecting, and we've really tried to enforce social distancing, large group gatherings, etc. But I think we found real quickly, especially last week, that we needed to take a step further, because we were seeing the increased positives that we were seeing in the community, we were seeing in the workplace. So actually last Friday, we announced to our employees that we would be instituting mandatory masks, and we took, and it would be effective on Tuesday. So we've been doing this. We're a few days into it. So far it's been going fairly well. Some feedback that employees, it's hot. A lot of these factories are not air tempered or have air conditioning. But for the most part, employees have been very cooperative about it. And we've instituted this for not only our employees, but contractors, customers, suppliers, etc. So our policy for the most part falls in place with what the governor has announced. But at the end of the day, it became really obvious real quick that we needed to keep a workforce that could come to work. And we found ourselves not only in positives, but also having to quarantine employees that were exposed through the contact tracing. So, you know, we have to continue to accommodate customers to support aircraft for essential business activities, as outlined in the U.S. Department of Homeland Security guidelines. So we also we have an additional amount of pressure on us to keep the company with employees that are working on airplanes because of that. So, you know, to keep our employees safe and healthy, we definitely endorse the wearing of face masks. This helps us not only in the workplace enforcing it, but if they're doing it in their personal lives, which we've encouraged employees to do, they're not bringing it into the workforce. So I think we have found the same thing. Not only, you know, people don't like them because of the comfort or lack of comfort of them, but we definitely think it's the next step. And what we were doing previously was working, but we definitely could take the extra caution and do this.
Thanks, Maggie. That's some recent and real-time information. So much appreciated. Okay, Event Center, AJ Bileski runs Interest Bank Arena. AJ, you on the call?
I am on the call. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can, AJ.
Well, appreciate you, Mr. Chairman, for having us and all the commissioners for this opportunity. It's been great listening to everybody's thoughts on this so far. So we're very appreciative of the opportunity. We closed March 12th after having Blake Shelton on March 11th and have yet to reopen. Right now, most recently in the news yesterday, the USD 259 was going to host graduations here at the end of July. That has now been canceled, just out of the safety of all the students, faculty, staff, families, etc. So we are targeting August 8th for PBR. And as of right now, that's on target to host that event. And then we have a bare knuckle fighting event August 21st that we're focused on having back as well. We ended up furloughing about half of our staff, completely furloughed since April 1st. That continues. The other half of us are on partial furloughs. We expect all of that to continue throughout probably the rest of this year, or at least into the fall. And then we had 6 layoffs. So that's kind of where we landed. As far as mask, we are very supportive of the mask mandate. It allows us we are kind of in the business of policing for shows. We don't allow, obviously, guns or knives or sometimes cameras in for events based on the show requirements. So we're used to that. And we are planning on policing the mask as long as it's mandated. If the order were to not be in place, then it would be a situation where we would recommend it to our guests. All of our staff, vendors, everybody within the building have been wearing masks since May 4th. We started that, and we continue to do that unless you're in your office space. But otherwise, you're expected to wear a mask in the arena facility itself. We are working with our company, ASM Global. We have a Venue Shield as our branded protocols for bringing events back and for providing a safe environment. So that's obviously key. And bringing events back is going to be letting people know that it's safe to come, as safe as we can possibly make it. And so that's what we will do with those. Hand sanitizers will be prevalent, wiping down all the high-touch areas. Every show that I mentioned and shows that we're working with in the near future, we are targeting a 50% capacity or less. So if it's a lower bowl show, we're looking at about 3,000 people instead of 6,500. If it's a full house show or say a basketball game that holds 15,000, then we're looking at closer to 7,500. So whatever the size of the setup is, we're going to target half of that for these events coming up. And then again, continuing to install sneeze guards, enhanced cleaning, everything that's been talked about on this call, we are pursuing as well as we look forward to future events. One question that I did have, concern on the topics for discussion, the limiting travel out of state, that obviously does affect events like PBR, which is bull riding. So when they're coming in from out of state, that's obviously going to affect that. Same thing with the fighting event. It's a mixed martial arts event. That's going to have some fighters in from out of state. So that does affect us as well. I think I had heard something, and I don't know if it was true or not, but coming out of the MAYB where it was being asked that the county approve all large gatherings, large events that are coming in. So I did have just a question on that, if that was indeed something that's in place or not, as we look to move forward in hosting, the events that I mentioned. Concert-wise, most concerts are going to move to 2021. It's just too difficult for them right now to be able to schedule these tours from coast to coast, where the rules and the regulations are different, in every state, every county. So we expect most, if not all, concerts to postpone to 2021. But in the short term, we're looking at a lot of sporting events and events that are local in nature, more so than the large touring events. And we'll look to limit our capacity and require masks as long as it's mandated. We'll recommend them if it's not a mandate. So that's kind of where we are. We appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, AJ. It's a little bit sad that I thought maybe the limited graduation stuff for seniors that wasn't gonna. A couple thousand people in a 15,000 arena sounded like a winner, but sad to know that has been canceled. So, okay, we had skipped Janetta Everett. Janetta, you might be a good person to kind of summarize, and then I'd like if Adrian or Dr. Menz is on the phone, I'd like to know if they would be able to say a few comments after Janetta. But Janetta, let's test your audio skills here.
Can you hear me, Pete?
Yes.
We can now, yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. It's nice to see your chair, Pete, by the way.
Yeah. I guess I am the chairman, so I guess you're seeing the chair.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to say on behalf of the Chamber, there's not a lot that I can add, but I do want to say that the Chamber continues to support the safe and the measured, responsible approach that most of you on this call have talked about today. The businesses that should be taking all are similar to what the actions that you're taking. I've been to many of these businesses personally, like Greystone and Dillon's, of course, and even Orangetheory. And most of these they have very good visible and sometimes mostly posted, measured instructions in place, so you know what you're getting before you go in. So there is a sense of security and knowing what's going on. I personally prefer to wear a mask. That's just me. They're just a pain. I'd like for somebody to create one with a hole in the middle so I can drink my coffee through a straw, or my drinks through a straw. I might not have to take my mask down. Scott, hope you heard that. So the Chamber, however, we trust that businesses will do what's best for them and their employees. Delta Dental, my real employer, we actually require our 100 employees before they can walk in our building to take a self-assessment. The app we have, they have to take a self-assessment test before they can enter the building. It will tell them if they have no to any of those 5 questions, they are to go back home and work remotely. We are not a public-facing business. However, even people delivering food are not allowed to come in the building. We've set up a place where they can deliver the building. So as long as businesses, I believe, are taking the appropriate measures to make their employees safe and anybody that they work with, we are supporting the choice for those businesses to do that. We, the Chamber, however, if you come there, we will take your temperature. You will be required to wear a mask even during meetings. So again, everybody, each of you make your best decision for your business. The only problem with requiring is just sometimes it gets too political. But we've seen too much of we've seen a lot of the businesses doing taking responsible measures, and that's at this point what we will continue to do. So expectation is that they'll make the best choice.
Thank you, Janetta. Thanks for being a part of that. I know taking time out of your day. Is Dr. Menz or Adrian available to say anything?
I am. Hi. Dr. Menz couldn't be available for this meeting. He will be at 4 o'clock. So Dr. Menz did make those recommendations on Tuesday, and that was before he had even seen our case count to be what it is. In the last 24 hours, we have added 170 cases. So it is just exploding. So that, from our standpoint, that has even more reinforced the need for those recommendations. And, as we've said before, what we have, there's only so many tools that we have in our arsenal, and social distancing and masks are two of those, and then being aware of, where we're traveling, and then where people are traveling with coming into our area, because we also know that cases are exploding all over the country. And so the likelihood of other states being added to that list are great. Our hospitals, Dr. Menz has had conversations with Via Christi Ascension, and they're starting to have some concern. Their capacity is still good at this point, but they have concern over how quickly their hospital beds, and again, they have plenty of beds available, but they're a little bit concerned and wanting to see something done to help that not continue to increase at the level it has in the last handful of days. I don't know about Wesley, but that is where we are, very concerned about the number of cases that we're seeing. And, we don't anticipate that, unless there's some kind of intervention, we do not anticipate that those numbers to decrease. And we still have 4th of July weekend to get through. And we know from looking at our data and our metrics that, we've said all along that we believed as we tested more people that our numbers would increase. Well, when we looked at the numbers of people that we've been testing over the last 4 or 5 weeks, it has increased the last week as far as the number of people that have been tested in Sedgwick County. But when our numbers started to increase 3 weeks ago, our testing numbers had been consistent the 3 or 4 weeks prior to that, which led us to be able to say that our numbers increasing had a lot to do with the lack of restrictions and people wanting to get back to normalcy and acting like COVID. Some people acting like COVID isn't part of our community still, and it is. So, that's why we anticipate those numbers are going to continue to increase unless there are some steps taken.
Okay. Thanks, Adrian. Adrian Byrne is our Sedgwick County Health Director, for those of you that have not met her or know her, but she's been on the news a lot lately, so I think probably everybody does know you, Adrian. Okay, well, we're coming up to the end of our hour and a half. Tom, we probably owe AJ, is there his only question was about, AJ, if he has what's the number that they need to call, not the number, but what is the number of participants? Is it like more than 500 or something they should call Adrian's office to get approved? I can't remember.
I've had just a variety of people from 80 on up. So it really hasn't been so much a set number. It's just looking at certain recommendations, and if someone is really set on holding an event to just look at how risk can be minimized during that time.
Okay.
And I
Very
think,
helpful.
Chairman,
Thank you.
I think, Chairman, that's something that we may want to discuss at our 4 p.m. Special meeting today, too, is what is the definition of large? What is a proper number? And I think that is something, either today's special meeting or at next Wednesday's general meeting, we probably should discuss.
And we're also creating documents that will be available on the web to review some of those recommendations for events.
Okay. Okay. Lacey, do you have any, Commissioner Cruz, do you have any closing comments? Then I'll wrap it up.
Chairman, I just appreciate the discussion today. It was pretty fascinating to hear the realm of thoughts, and I'm just really encouraged by those of you who are mandating masks yourselves, because there's only so many tools, and I just appreciate the discussion. So thank you.
Okay. And thanks. And thanks my fellow commissioners that are also been paying attention. We have open meetings and open meetings requirements, and so that's why we couldn't have more than 2 that were active on this. But with that, the other disclaimer is that although I know some of you personally we tried to put a cross section. I didn't even know for sure how some of you are going to feel or say or talk, so this was not any kind of a setup to go one way or another, although a lot of the public here locally is hanging on every word and every action, so you may get labeled as a friend or a foe of Pete or Lacey's or whatever, so I apologize if you catch any grief from being a part of this panel. It was totally productive for me and I'm sure the other commissioners to hear your all's perspective and what you can and what you want to do and what you want to avoid and then all of the things that you shared. So I can't thank you enough. I would kind of open it up for panel, but we all got to keep moving. You spent an hour and a half with us, and so we may reserve, as we said last time, we may convene again. And thank you all for participating. Our sincere thanks. So with that, we will exit, and we'll everybody be safe, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.